My name is Chester Shaw. I am the District Accountability Chair, and I'd just like to welcome you all to the District Accountability Winter Forum. Tonight's focus is mental health resources and supplies in Douglas County schools. So glad you guys are here. Got a great evening planned for you all to take back some resources, ask some questions, and all that fun stuff. We hope that you are able to attend not only the keynote, but also the breakout session. So hopefully you got a schedule that shows you where all our breakouts is so you know what's going on with that. All right, our keynote speaker tonight is Dr. Scott Cypers. Dr. Cypers is the Director of Stress and Anxiety Programs at the Helen and Arthur E. Johnson Depression Center. His primary and clinical and research interests focus on anxiety and stress-related issues, especially improving outcomes around anxiety treatment and building innovative anxiety treatments. Dr. Cypers has worked for the past 13 years in various clinical roles, including as the Director of Anxiety and Stress Programs at Children's Hospital, Colorado, as a psychologist working with active duty military at Buckley Mental Health, as well as working for many universities and student health services in various roles. At each place he has worked, Dr. Cypers has built innovative programs to address a range of mental health issues, most notably in the areas of stress, anxiety, and promoting help-seeking behaviors. Excuse me. Dr. Cypers enjoys all forms of sport and exercises, laughing as well as spending time with his family and 3 children who are 12 years old and under. Please welcome Dr. Cypers.
Thank you, and thank you all. Really glad to be here. And again, I have 40 minutes. I'll talk into the mic, that might be helpful. I have 40 minutes, y'all, to give you what I usually give in a much quicker, much longer version. So you'll get the condensed version, but the highlights. And I've rolled in from really bad traffic, so my own kind of stress is a little up right now. But the first thing you'll notice, besides that great introduction, is if any of you are still Harry Potter fans out there, okay. The younger kids are starting to move away, not anymore. Our generation, we're still good talking about Harry. But one of the first things I want to kind of have you think about overall when it comes to mental health is want to start to get you comfortable to think about it like Voldemort. We don't want to keep it as he who must not be named. We don't want it to be a secret, and we want to empower both ourselves and our kids to be able to talk about it, have a frame for talking about their mental health issues, and to understand that in that frame, there are probably some really good treatments now that we don't have, that we didn't have before, that we do now. And so what's that frame that I kind of start with to try to help families? So that frame, I like to get people to start thinking differently about their brain. And how I want you to start thinking about your brain and your teen brain or kid brains, whoever you're thinking about, think about them more like a team or a band. And what I mean by that there's different parts of your brain trying to do different things. They're all working together to win the game, like the Rams just did on the Super Bowl. I'm from LA, that was a good victory. We all work together, but not everyone in every part of the team is doing the same thing. And when you start to understand how they're doing different things, A, your internal world starts to make a little more sense, but B, it becomes a really nice frame to understand mental health issues. So let me quickly, again, because of that time thing, going to quickly go over some of those members and how it relates. So the first member of the band, I'm not going to show the video. The first member of the band, think of this like the lead singer of the band. And again, hopefully our generation might know, or my generation, who that lead singer is. The younger kids in the room might be like, who's that old white guy? That's Bono from U2, for those that were wondering. But think of our smart brain or our frontal lobe as sort of the leader of the band. And the leader of the band has a couple jobs. The first job of the leader of the band is to slow down and to live and help us live our best life. It's grounded in our values. It's our goals. It's who we want to be. It's aspirational in nature. And so think about it. Take a moment and just think about a goal for yourself over the next month. Something you might want to accomplish. And in that action, you are engaging that part of your brain. If we went in an fMRI machine, it would light up because you're thinking about that activity. And so Smart Brain's job is what I like to call satisfaction. Satisfaction is the attainment of goals. When you set a goal and you attain it, you feel a sense of this thing called satisfaction. The other job of our Smart Brain is, besides just helping us accomplish goals, its job is to pay attention to the other bandmates and making sure they're playing in good rhythm and music to the band. So what's the next part of the band we want to talk about? And that's our emotional system. And again, think of it like the rhythm to the lyrics of your life. And there's no good music without that. So we want emotions in our life. And a great example of emotions is I like to show the movie Inside Out. It's part of our limbic system, but the key to understand, our limbic system is not focused on satisfaction. Ooh, got a little reverb. I'll come over here and just talk a little louder. I think that'll work a little better. Our emotion brain is focused on what will make me happy, what will feel good in the moment. So think about this from a perspective of in your head. What happens every day, or I'll share with you, to me, one of the things that happens is we can go through these many battles between different bandmates. They can disagree or want different things. So it was 5:30 a.m. this morning, and my alarm goes off because that's the only time I could get a workout in. That's my goal. That's what helps me start the day, feel good, getting that workout in. But what would make me happy at 5:30 a.m. on a snow day? To sleep in, hit that snooze button, go back to bed. And so a little mini battle happened. Oh, we're streaming, so I should talk into the microphone so people could hear. Didn't know. Good. All right, so apologize for those that are watching the interwebs, Google this, YouTube stuff. So there's a mini battle that can happen. And ideally, it's not such a battle, but ideally, when it's working well, we're paying attention, our smart brain is paying attention to what we're feeling and helping us find healthy ways to take care of our needs. And so one of the things I introduce kids to, or adults, is think of our emotion brain kind of like water in a dam. We gotta have good mechanisms for tuning into the water, figuring out what the water is about, and having good ways to take care of the water in our dam. The third player in the band, and it is still part of our limbic system, but that's our anxious brain. And all, as you're hearing, all parts of our brain have a job. And anxiety is an emotion too, but I separate it out because it has such a specific function. And its job is it's a built-in alarm system in your head. So really fast, if I threw this guy into the audience, what do you think would happen? You would lock in on the threat. That part of your brain, your anxiety, would see the threat and go, uh-oh, we have a Cobra in the room. Maybe not uh-oh. It would probably have stronger words than uh-oh. But I don't know the audience, so we'll keep it at uh-oh. But you would make a quick decision. Am I running away from the threat, which would be the most logical, smart thing you can do to avoid a Cobra, is get out of here. But if I can't, then my second option is what can I do to fight the Cobra? So those thoughts, your anxiety system, are all the thoughts in your head about what can go wrong and the danger. Whenever you hear thoughts about what could go wrong about a test, why not to go to school, what could happen when you go to work, all the dangers, that's your alarm system sort of doing its job. So then when we go back really fast to kind of the brain, all of a sudden some of those mental health big words you hear might help start to make sense. So for example, if you or your child might deal with something called ADD. So remember, what are the symptoms of ADD? Decision making, a little more impulsive, having a hard time organizing, following through. What part of our brain is working differently than other people? I'm part of that crowd, the ADD crowd. Our smart brain. So we have to develop better systems to compensate that our brain works a little differently. When it comes to social anxiety, general anxiety, specific phobias, panic, that's all different ways our worry brain works a little differently. It might be oversensitive, it might give us false alarms. There are a lot of different parts. And then when we get really emotional and upset and tearful, or we're trying to cope with our life through substances, we haven't figured out good strategies to deal with our emotion brain. So stress habits, biting your nails, pulling your hair, cutting, are all sort of things that we have to figure out a better way to deal with our emotion brain. So the final thing is then a big part of this, kind of to understand, is when the band breaks down, kind of in my metaphor, that's what makes us vulnerable to this thing called depression. And usually it happens in this kind of three-part way. So first off, when our emotion brain, when the water in the dam starts being overwhelmed, think of everything we've just gone through, COVID, traumas, everything that's still going on, a lot of water that can easily overwhelm our dam. Coupled with an overactive worry brain, usually the gift of genetics in different parts. And then again, the third part I didn't talk much about, but we have this kind of internal coach. So when we typically have more of a critical coach in our head, those things make us vulnerable to depression. So depression isn't the thing that happens to us when our band starts to fall apart, when they're not working well together. And when the virus gets in us, back to the Harry Potter reference, think of it kind of like a Dementor. And so we have to then do things to drive out the depression. I wish it was as simple as inventing a Patronus, but there are some concrete strategies that we know that help drive it out. So when we do, I was on the wrong slide. The slide here was this. The slide you saw was a bunch of thoughts. But when you start to understand or see your brain a little differently, all of a sudden some of that differences or noise in your head makes sense. And we can tease it out and develop a playbook for getting the band to work together. And that's why, again, I'm an anxiety specialist at the Depression Center, because anxiety shows up earlier in people's life courses. And if we don't have good tools to deal with it, it's very easy then for later this virus to kind of get into us. So now, because we're talking about anxiety, I want to kind of go and give you what I think every adult should know about anxiety, and I call it Anxiety 101. And you already heard one part of Anxiety 101, which is what is the job of anxiety. And we all have it, and we all need it. But why has it become such a big issue in Douglas County, in the district, and overall, again, first off, even before COVID, 10% of kids had a diagnosable anxiety disorder, meaning that their anxiety was at a place, that alarm system in their head, that it was impeding their ability to do what they wanted to do in their life, which normally shows up in school because school is something kids need to do. Another reason how I kind of made my way to Douglas County and developed an amazing relationship with their mental health team is because when they started to unpack the data of why are kids missing school, in truancy, it's the number one reason for missed school in the district is anxiety-related issues. And again, this idea when we started to create this big vision is imagine if we start early in elementary school and start giving the people this message you're hearing today, some of the skills you're hearing, how could we change outcome and trajectories into the future? So that was a big part of why I'm here and why we developed this sort of really big comprehensive program around anxiety across the district. So let's go over the things I really want you to go, and it's going to be a little technical, but always really important to understand. So the first thing we've gone over is the job of anxiety. You got it, you know it. The next thing to understand about anxiety, this is called the paradox of anxiety. And the paradox of anxiety, remember this alarm system wants you to run away from a cobra. Anytime you listen to your alarm system, you are strengthening that connection. So think of anxiety like a fire. Every time you do what that part of your brain wants you to do, you're putting gasoline on the fire. And when the fire gets hot enough, it could start to burn and move into different areas, which happens a lot with anxiety. So it might be, for example, a well-intentioned parent in the room. Oh my goodness, English class is making you so stressed out. Let's find you a different English class. Again, that action is teaching your child that the way to deal with their anxiety is to avoid. And everyone goes, phew, I feel better, your kid feels better. But anxiety learned, that's what you do with your anxiety, you avoid. So the next thing you're anxious about, so now it's not just English, let's say now it's about math, you want to avoid. So you get caught up in this vicious, anxious, avoidant loop. And the other part of the paradox is that everything we learn is a skill. So when you allow your children to avoid, they're not learning the skills to deal with it. So then when they're in those situations, there's even more a desire to avoid. So that's the first part, anxiety fire. And we want to start fueling the fire. And so a lot of times I'll share with a parent, they're like, oh my goodness, their meltdowns are too much. It's just so much easier to give in to them when they're anxious. I share with them, if you really don't want to see meltdowns in the future, guess what? The meltdowns can't work to get them to avoid. Because if they do, you're going to see more of the exact behavior you don't want to see, because that's what anxiety learns to get what it wants. So that's number one. Number two is the biggest thing that I want people to understand, and I got lucky enough I kind of coined it and put it out there. But I call it the irony of anxiety. And the irony of anxiety is basically, remember, this part of our brain was developed to protect us from cobras. It works great. If I had a cobra and wanted to do a great demonstration, I'd throw it in the middle of the room. You would all have a great experience of what anxiety's job is. It would be perfect. But the problem with anxiety is we developed a smart brain. So now there's things we're psychologically afraid of, not biologically afraid of. And they're up there. We're afraid of our own mortality. I was just checking to make sure they're up there, and they are. We're afraid of our own failure. We're afraid of disappointment. We're afraid of being out of control. We're afraid of our own mortality. And a big one, we're afraid of being alone or rejected. So if you ever wonder, why am I afraid of raising my hand in class or doing whatever behavior? It's because your anxiety system has decided that that action could lead to one of these fears. But the problem is, anxiety sees everything like a cobra. And what should you do with a cobra? Run. So now imagine you have a test you're afraid of failing, and you run away from the test. What's going to happen if you're running away from a test because you're afraid of failing it? You're going to fail. Let's say your biggest fear is being alone or rejected. So your anxiety does exactly tells you it's a cobra. Run away from it. Don't talk to people. Don't go to school. Don't be the real you. Don't let people in. Imagine you listen to that anxiety. What's going to happen with that fear? It's going to come true. You'll wind up rejected and alone if you do all those things. So anxiety works great under key conditions. But when it comes to most 95% of school-related anxiety, instead of protecting us from our fear, when it takes over, it's going to make our fear come true. And so that's why we have to learn to do the opposite of what our anxiety wants us to do in those scenarios. But that's why it's so hard, folks, because that part of your brain is so good at taking over and consuming and getting you to avoid because it's a cobra. So when your kids are feeling anxious, even though you might not see the cobra, that's what they're seeing. But if we let that part of our brain take over and avoid, their fear that they're trying to protect themselves from is more likely going to come true. So we have to have tools to interrupt this process, to not let our anxious brain take over. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to try to give you some of that playbook, like I said, and if I'm doing good clock management for about 10 minutes. But here's the next thing to know about anxiety. And the next thing I want you to know is what I've really tried to embrace is think of a lot of anxiety work like teaching people to ski. And so here's what I mean by that. I would never put a kid on a double black diamond if I haven't taught them certain things about skiing. I want them to have some tools to be able to more manage the skiing experience. So in my household, my wife and I came up with 3. So our kids needed to know how to stop. They needed to know how to turn, but her big one, they needed to know how to get up, because if you ever have kids, it's a pain in the tush to have to go up and pick them up all the time. So that was her big 3, that before we kind of got them on the mountain, we wanted them to have a little knowledge in that area. But then you don't jump to the first time you teach a kid after they know those basics, you don't jump to a double black. Their first experience is not on moguls. Their first experience is on the bunny run, gaining repetitions, learning to use those skills. Then it starts to get easier. Then we start moving up the mountain. And that's what we want to do, and that's what effective anxiety treatment looks like. We're teaching you some skills, and I'm going to show you my playbook. There's other playbooks out there, but good anxiety treatment should have a playbook. But eventually, you have to start skiing. And what we know about anxiety, the only way for it to stop tormenting us or controlling us is start doing, and that fancy term is called exposure work. And so if you're with a therapist and you deal with anxiety, that's something you want to ask your therapist. Are we going to do that? It's not fun, but if you want your anxiety to not dominate your life, it's an important ingredient in your treatment. So one of the other things to kind of show is the nice thing to know about anxiety when it comes to effective treatment, that out of all the mental health conditions we treat, we're the best at treating anxiety. then what this shows, so this is called a meta-analysis. So the way I talk about meta-analysis, it's the rotten tomatoes of the science world. We take a whole bunch of studies and people's ratings and look at, what it looks like. And so what this shows and what this means and translates to, 3/4 of kids who go and get this brand of therapy for their anxiety improve to a point that their anxiety is not impeding their life in the same way. So that's almost the last thing I want you to know about Anxiety 101. And the last thing is, how do I spot anxiety in myself or in my kids or people I care about? So the first place I want to gear you towards internally are your thoughts. And if your thoughts are about why to avoid, what could go wrong, or even if it's just quick distraction. So a good way I know I'm anxious about something and I deal with it all the time is if I have something on my to-do list that's been there for 2 days, and it probably should have been done first, but it hasn't been done with, that's a sign I'm avoiding. So anytime we're avoiding something might be a sign I'm having some anxiety about it. And it might not be an in-your-face, oh my God, you're so anxious, but when you slow down and reflect, oh, that paper, I haven't written yet. It's due in a week, it's due tomorrow, and I haven't started. Anxiety's playing some tricks on you. And we'll talk about what some of those tricks are. Another big one, and remember, anxiety gets us to avoid, so anytime you want to start looking at attendance patterns or records, or again, parents start figuring it out, they come with notes to school, my kid is anxious about X, they should get out of it. So those are all, so besides your thoughts, a lot of times your body will let you know. Again, remember, everything gets turned on to deal with the Cobra. So if your heart's racing, your chest is pounding, your stomach aches, you're having headaches, those are all signs of an active worry brain. A big one for parents is if you do things or if you changed your parenting style, because you know it will make your child upset if you don't do it that way. The fancy term for that is accommodation. And accommodation, again, keeps the anxiety out in the moment, but it's stoking that anxiety fire. So I'm going to overshare, but my parents were huge accommodators. And they didn't know better. I didn't know better. I was, in 4th grade at the time. But the one I'm going to overshare is I had a lot of anxiety about using public restrooms. They were gross, dirty, yucky. People could come in, all that. So my parents, being so nice, would bring 2 cars when we would go out to a restaurant. And if I had to go, they would bring me home so the family could stay. Very nice, but my anxiety around germs didn't get better. What helped me get over that was going to Europe. And if McDonald's is the nicest bathroom you could find, all of a sudden it starts to be easier. Again, the skiing. But I didn't know that at the time, but that's what was happening. So another big thing to know, 2 other signs of anxiety, is if you're giving a lot of reassurance, reassurance also stokes anxiety, because it's teaching our brain we need that reassurance to be okay. So if you're asking for reassurance or you know that your worry brain is firing. So an example of, again, another overshare, I have a lot of anxiety about flying. So one of the ways I used to be okay flying was I would call someone and tell me I'm going to be okay. And that's what I needed to hear to be able to step on the flight. So again, stoking the anxiety fire, but it's a sign of anxiety. The last one are, again, what I'll share with any teachers in the room, are the kids who are doing well but you know nothing about. The kids who are getting the A's, getting the B's, but when you slow down and think about it, you haven't heard much from them. You don't know anything about them. And especially anxiety gets, a lot of kids who have anxiety have a really difficult time asking for help. So they figure it out on their own, they don't talk. So again, look out for the quiet ones. And maybe want to start thinking about checking in and seeing if that might be part of the experience. The last one on here, remember, anxiety's job is to lock into a Cobra in the room. It's really important because it's a survival mechanism. So if you notice that you can't let something go, that it's just stuck in your head and kind of seared there and you're perseverating on it, that also might be a sign that you're anxious. It might be some other feelings too, but something to look for when you're getting really locked in and you can't let go. That's sort of an adaptive response to anxiety, but when we're anxious about smart brain stuff, it's not so adaptive. So for my example, I have an 8-year-old now. If my 8-year-old for the 20th time says, "When are you going to be home?" He knows when I'm going to be home, but that's a sign his worry brain is firing and he's worried about being home alone or home with his siblings. So in the last 5 minutes, that's the backdrop. Those are the things we want to know. But then the key kind of to understand, what's the playbook? What can help? And there's these skills out there that can help us override this anxiety system. And the model developed is called learning to face your fears. And FACE is an acronym and applies to key steps that we can use to help us start skiing. So the F step, I'm going to go really fast, involves learning to identify and be able to go in your head, oh, that's my worry brain. And it can be really helpful to start to put a number to it, or if you're a parent, to ask your kid, how anxious are you about this scenario? You're about to go to prom. What number is this on your worry brain from 1 to 10? And again, if it's a 1, you might be okay, you're good, go. If it's a 10, you might want to slow down and talk about it. But then the key, remember, our worry brain easily commandeers our brain. We have to have the ability to get our smart brain back online. We need that band leader. And this is true with emotion brain too, all emotions. So the other thing is then we teach ways to get our smart brain back. And I call these calming tools. And again, this isn't an exhaustive list, but it's pretty good. And I kind of divide them into these different buckets. There are ways to calm yourself using your body. There are ways to calm yourself using your mind. There are ways to get your senses involved that are helpful for calming. And then the ability to get it out. And I really recommend that anyone I work with, adult, child, any human being, ideally you have 2. 2 that you like, 2 that you can use, 2 that you've practiced a ton. So when you get into these really emotionally volatile situations or anxiety-driven situations, you can lean on and help yourself get your smart brain back. So again, the most powerful one is using your breath. And really fast, this is how I teach it. What sounds like a really awesome dinner right now, if Douglas County was on them and the best dinner just showed up, like Harry Potter, you could, snap your fingers. Anything? Anyone? Good dinner? Awesome. I can hear that one more time. Steak and potatoes from anywhere in particular? Somewhere good. All right. So again, picture that in front of you, and we want to get a good whiff of it through our nose, and then we want to blow out how you would on hot soup. So we're breathing in that really yummy food, and we're blowing out on hot soup. The next thing is then the work of anxiety begins. We're calm, we know we're anxious, and this is a pivotal step. But it's learning to talk about Voldemort and acknowledge it. And that's a key, because a lot of times as a parent or unintentionally, you might say, block out your anxiety, pretend it's not there. But I want you to realize what a bad strategy that would be if there's a Cobra in the room. And would your brain really let you, if there's a Cobra slithering towards you right now, and I said, oh, don't mind the Cobra, just pay attention to me. Or another favorite one, picture the Cobra naked. Is that really going to get you to not worry about this dangerous thing coming at you? No. So the key, we have to acknowledge the Cobra. And if we don't, it doesn't get our worry brain to worry less, it gets it to worry more. So we want to acknowledge the Cobra. In some ways, I hear your anxiety telling me, I'm giving a horrible presentation right now. Everyone's bored out of their mind. You suck. Thank you for letting me know. But then we want to learn to challenge those thoughts. We want to learn to have the last word, to engage our smart brain in a series of steps to see it's a battle for who's going to control. Is my worry brain going to control and get me to run away? Or is my smart brain going to help me figure out how to approach? So again, don't have time, have like 2 minutes, but there's these tools we can teach to help approach. And so again, we want to learn to have the last word. And so after that, then we still have to approach. And there are these other skills that help us approach. Learning to practice things, learning to break things down, learning to make them into smaller steps. Anytime you help your kid outline something really huge and new in their life, or you teach them, we understand that a lot. I share about English or math. We got to teach you how to write an essay, but we don't think, how do we teach flirting? How do we teach small talk? How do we teach giving presentations? How do we teach these things? And we recognize other elements where teaching is essential, but a lot of things we're anxious about, we don't know how to do. And so helping your kids learn or help them go to a source to learn how to do that can help override some of the anxiety. So again, then the last thing, after we do all this stuff, then we want to start doing what makes us anxious and looking back and seeing, was our anxiety right or wrong? And after kids then learn these skills, then we start to figure out what are they anxious about and start using that to design ski mountains at the right level. And so I'll give you an example of a ski mountain for learning to sing in public. Maybe someone's really anxious about singing. So maybe bunny runs, as you've learned the skills, are again watching singing fails over and over. Then maybe singing alone in the shower. And then you can see, not everyone, and my wife reminds me of this all the time, not everyone needs to ski extreme runs. Not all of us need to get there, but we want to realize what is the standard we need to get to be successful in our life or in school. And we want to either get to that standard or a little beyond it, because remember, if you want to be really comfortable skiing blues, you ski some blacks, blues start to become really easy. So what we're working a lot is not only getting these skills into the system, but helping teachers, administrators, parents start to design ski mountains that fit where the anxiety is showing up and impeding progress. And so I want you to start thinking about that yourself. And you can ask your teen or kid, what makes this activity easier or harder? What makes giving presentations easier or harder? Maybe it's whether there's a microphone or not. Do you know the content, the number of people in the room? Do I know them? Do I not know them? And then from there, you can start to design mountains to help get to the level where they can give a presentation in their English class. So with anxiety, the goal is no longer about avoiding, the goal is about preparing and then helping to get there. Not from the start, but that's the first question. If you have an anxious kid in your room or yourself, do they have the skills to start skiing? If they do, let's start to design the mountain. If they don't, let's get them to the right place to get those skills so then we can start skiing. And to understand that whenever you let kids avoid skiing, it's causing further problems in the future. You all been great. I wish we had more time. But last thing, a whole thing of other stuff, but I'll have you take a mental moment. I just gave you a ton of information. Gave you a ton of information, and I call it a stoplight. So take a reflective moment, either in your role as teacher, parent. think of one thing you might stop doing based on what you heard, something you might keep doing, pat yourself on the back, or something you might start doing based on this conversation. And take 1 second, turn to the person next to you, and share that with them. And like on Saturday Night Live when I was in the 80s, talk amongst yourselves, a little coffee talk before we take a break. And I know we don't have time for Q&A, but I am going to be at a breakout session. If you do have questions or want to talk more, we're going to talk about what Douglas County is doing and can answer more questions.